Two military psychologists regarded as the architects of the CIA's enhanced interrogation program will discover at some point on Friday whether they're going to stand trial over their so-called participation in acts of torture. Bruce Jessen and James Mitchell created and personally tested harsh torture methods, forming a company that profited from the program. Their techniques were used on suspected terrorists held at secret CIA prisons when the country launched its war on terror following the 9/11 attacks. But a 2014 torture report released by a Senate Select Committee found that some of those who were subjected to the brutal interrogations had not even been involved with extremist activities. Michael Cairns, who worked with one of the psychologists, had devised a program to help US service personnel withstand torture. He says that his work on SEER, as it's known, was used by one of the men to develop newer and more brutal torture techniques.
The resistance to interrogation program, we don't actually use the word torture in the training. However, there are torturous techniques that are used to certain levels during the training. This is all part of a program that's called SEER, S-E-R-E, Survival, Evasion, Resistance to Interrogation, and Escape. So what we were doing, we're protecting those operators, those people on strategic reconnaissance flights, doing operational work around the world to collect intelligence, and also those that were operationally working in counterterrorism, how to resist enemy interrogation. And those techniques were educatively very precise and were not used to hurt or harm the students. And every student had a stop code, a code that they could use at any time to have all activity stop. So again, torture in the mind of a student is different from being tortured for days and days and weeks, which is what we're hearing about the Bush-Cheney torture program. All of the activities that went on by the CIA were grossly beyond anything at the SEER school standards, from my opinion. Please understand that I retired from the U.S. Air Force in 1991. Only in 2006 or 2007 did I even have an inkling that these people that I haven't seen for dozens of years were doing this. Roger Aldridge, Bruce Jessen, and Jim Mitchell were the people behind the torture program. It was the people that I worked with for several years that had taken and reverse engineered the harsh part of SEER and turned it into the EITs, the Enhanced Interrogation Program, brutal techniques.
The lawyers for the two psychologists in question say their clients are innocent and should be viewed like the suppliers of poison gas to the Nazis were. In their words, it was simply doing business in line with a contractual agreement. And one former CIA analyst and whistleblower told us that the men managed to earn $81 million doing such business.
The reason why Mitchell and Jessen were put in charge of this terrible, this important program was because the CIA simply had no experience in this kind of thing. Nobody in the CIA was trained in interrogation. That's an FBI job. But the CIA wanted to be the organization that did it themselves. And it's because the CIA blamed itself for the 9/11 attacks. Well, because they had nobody internally who could do these interrogations, they decided to hire Mitchell and Jessen at a cost of $81 million to come in and teach the CIA how to torture people. At the end of the day, Mitchell and Jessen were the ones who flew out to the secret prison site overseas and actually carried out the torture themselves. We know from the Senate torture report, for example, that it was Mitchell and Jessen who were personally torturing these prisoners. There was no discussion of ethics, there was no discussion of morality, and once the memo was signed by the president, there was no discussion of legality. It was as though the CIA was just winging it. They were taking it one day at a time. They didn't care if they were breaking rules. They didn't care if they were violating the laws. They didn't care about professional ethics. When Vice President Dick Cheney said that we were going to turn to the dark side, they meant it. They meant that the CIA was going to go overseas and it was going to kill or capture everybody that it encountered, and then just deal with the fallout later. That's why Guantanamo was created.